everybody. It is the Yak, the Yolanda and Cornelia show, and I think we're a week early. Usually the Leaders Lounge is the second Tuesday.
Yes.
You got to speak in the mic,
yes.
child.
Yes.
There you go.
We are here early.
We are here early this week because
no time like the present.
Yeah, Lady Dawn has so many things that she does. But we welcome Nashville. We welcome Southern Kentucky. We welcome Middle Tennessee to the Yolanda and Cornelia show, the Leaders Lounge. Leaders with an S apostrophe because we are leaders. And because we are leaders, we have to understand, we have to have this agape leadership in our life to make sure that we reach our full potential.
Yes.
Dawn Marie, good afternoon. How art thou?
Good afternoon, Dr. Pastor Cornelius.
Look at you, y'all. She's trying to set everything up.
Yes. Good afternoon. How are you?
Okay, so tell us, let me see, you got that running?
Yes.
Is that live or recording?
That should be.
To make it sure, everybody. Hey, if you have any questions, call in 615-242-7760. That's 615-242-7760. I see you're in these festive colors. You must have done something very intriguing today.
I did. I was teaching interviewing skills.
Interviewing skills?
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
I was teaching an interviewing skills boot camp. Yes, it is a skill because there are we teach behavioral interviewing to organizations so that their employees are better equipped to be promoted. And behavioral interviewing. So that's going into your past and speaking to that for how you impacted the organization or a situation in a positive way when you're responding to interviewing questions versus theoretical, like saying, hey, I would do this or I might do that. You're actually saying, well, when I worked at a certain organization, this is what I did and this is how I was able to impact things in a positive way, or what we call the STAR method of interviewing. So,
the STAR method.
Yes.
Behavioral interviewing. Theoretical.
That historical versus instead of theoretical.
See, all of these
That's
words.
Correct.
See, I didn't. Historical, theoretical, behavioral, 5-star interviewing.
It's called the STAR interviewing because it goes situation, task, action, and result.
Situation, task, action, and result.
Yes.
See, y'all, all this knowledge just comes out.
So we had a great time this morning teaching
task,
that.
Action, result.
Absolutely.
Theoretical, and then historical.
That's correct.
So unpack theory for me for a minute. When you talk about theoretical interviewing, what are we saying again?
So if you're answering questions in a theoretical format, you're speaking more in terms of possibility.
Okay.
And if you are an employer, you want more historical data versus possibility.
Okay.
So if somebody answers a question from a historical perspective, then you know that it's more likely that this has happened in their history, which means, as they say, past behavior dictates future behavior. So that's why a lot of employers prefer the behavioral interviewing format where their candidates respond giving historical data versus theoretical data.
Based upon your partnership with companies.
Yes.
Do you do both?
Typically, I recommend that you only do behavioral interviewing because anybody could say, oh, yeah, I could definitely do that. But do you know that they've done it?
Capacity and character.
Capacity and character.
Yeah,
yes, that's right.
Let's talk about it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Prove it up. So if you can't prove it up, then, I'm more likely to pass you up. So
So the STAR method.
The STAR method is what we
is, what is that again?
What are the components of the STAR method? Situation, task, action, and result.
Situation, task, action, and result.
Yes.
Which is all a part of leadership because you have to lead through some situations.
You do.
There needs to be some task. It has to be task oriented.
Right.
There's some actions that have to take place, and then the results are comes in
outcomes.
Yeah, are the outcomes of the
outcomes.
situation,
right,
the task,
exactly.
and the actions.
Right, exactly.
Situation, task, and actions.
Yeah, so anyone who's interested in that class, I teach that as well. WorldClassTraining.net.
WorldClassTraining.net.
Yes.
How do we connect with World Class Training? Tell us.
Please go to our website, Pastor Hill, at WorldClassTraining.net. And please schedule time with me, or as I always say, I answer the phone. So 615-716-9990 is a way to connect with me as well.
WorldClassTraining.net.
Yes.
We want to make sure we connect with you on that. WorldClassTraining.net.
Yes.
All right. Tell us about this book, and then we're going to get into our interview. We're already in it, but Unpacking Agape, I'm looking at it, and I want people to see it in every apparatus. For those who have not purchased this particular text, we need you to get this.
And you know what's making my heart glad right now?
What?
Is that you have it open with notes in it, which is telling me that he's actually read the book. He has read.
I've rewritten it. I'm ready.
I got book. Yes,
I'm reading
yes.
it. I'm reading it.
Oh my goodness! You've just really warmed my whole heart
for
today.
real?
Yes, you have.
So is that situation, task, action, and result? That's a result.
Because yes, you
that's behavioral.
Got the book.
That's behavioral.
Yes,
that's behavioral.
You read the book.
I'm reading. I haven't finished.
You're reading it. Okay, very good. But yes, that's excellent. So yes, Unpacking Agape: The 7 Languages of Intentional Leadership is my latest book, and it focuses on helping leaders to, from a servant leadership standpoint, which is what Agape is about. It's about sacrificial love, care, and concern for others.
Mm-hmm.
What are the 7 behaviors, because language is a behavior, or best demonstrated by behavior, that leaders should enact in order to demonstrate that they are caring sacrificially for those people who are in their stead or their team members. And so, yes, that book walks through what the 7 languages of intentional leadership are, as well as I saw you had the distinctions there. Like, why does it matter? The distinctions part speaks to why it even matters to enact the 7 behaviors of intentional leadership.
Who wrote the book?
Who wrote the book?
Who's the author?
The author.
The brain behind this is
Dawn Marie Morris.
Wow.
Yes.
So this is your book?
Dawn Marie Morris and I are one of the same people.
This is your
one
book?
of the same person. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Got you.
Thank you very much for that. And you can get that at worldclasstraining.net/agape, AGAPE.
So this show is brought to you by Walker's Cafe and Grill, 109 UN Drive from 12 to 5. This show is brought to you by the Ephesian Primitive Baptist Church, 1506 22nd Avenue North, Nashville, Tennessee, 37208. This show is brought to you by WorldClassTraining.net for all your leadership needs. This show is brought to you by Forever Zion, www.foreverzion.com. Paparazzi jewelry for your boo, your bae, your subordinate, your significant, your cousin, your friend, your frenemy, your enemy. Go to www.foreverzion.com. Listen, y'all got to pause. Donna's over here tripping like, you haven't taken a breath. She's just like, amazed, like, how you just calling that all out? And then this show is brought to you by Trifold Outreach Ministries. That's Trifold Outreach Ministries, 49 Dry Creek Road, Goodlettsville, Tennessee, that meets in the second and fourth Sunday in Zoom. You're killing me, though, the way you like.
Because I'm just watching you, and I've been with you now for several of these, and the way that you do not miss a beat is remarkable. It just comes off. It just comes off.
That's part of Agape, though, correct?
It's part of Agape, and it's also a part of what we're here to talk about today.
So what are we here to talk about today?
We're here to talk today about something that you brought up, and when you said it to me, I said, "Oh my goodness, we have to unpack this when we meet next," because just the statement in and of itself says so much. And what you said was, greatness has to be coached. Greatness has to be coached.
It has. Jordan.
Yes. Jordan.
Scotty,
LeBron. Serena Williams.
All of them. Tiger Woods.
Larry Bird. In order to be great,
you have to be what?
You have to be coached. And so I wanted to really spend some time on that today as we talk, because
I didn't hear it the way I heard it just a second ago.
Really?
Yeah. Even after going how it came to us in that moment.
Yes.
I heard it, but I heard something else. Because I'm hearing it now for the umpteenth time, but to add the images of those individuals who we just called out, you would not have had a Serena and a Venus had they not been coached.
Had they not been coached, exactly. Right. And the coaching has to be great.
Wow. It can't be mediocre coaching.
It cannot be mediocre. You cannot have a C-class coach and have an A-class outcome.
Wow. Unpack that.
And what I thought about...
Unpack that a little bit.
Well...
Here we go.
Wow.
We're in our Baptist moment now, because now you're ready to talk about the outcome.
Yes. The person who is leading you has to be great, because it goes back to that whole thought process about the fruit and the tree. A good tree is going to bear good fruit.
Right.
An excellent tree is going to bear excellent fruit, which means that tree has been nourished in a certain type of way. That tree may have received a great amount of sunlight. There were certain things that were poured into that tree, and as a result, now that tree can bear great fruit. If a tree is not nourished well, the fruit that is bared from that tree is going to be average at best.
At best.
At best, exactly. Yes. So that's why you definitely have to have great coaching in order to have
great outcomes.
Great outcomes.
Great
Exactly.
athletes.
Great athletes. Exactly.
Great talent.
Great talent.
And
yes.
John Maxwell says talent alone is never enough. Because there was somebody who beat Jordan. There was somebody who was better than Serena and Venus. There was somebody better than LeBron. But guess what? Those individuals who we call had great coaches.
That's right. Exactly.
To make them better.
To make them better. And what I even thought about as I walked away from our conversation yesterday, I had seen a movie on Netflix, which is called The Coach's Playbook.
Okay. And
in that Coach's Playbook, Serena's last coach, Patrick, I actually wrote his name down. His name is Patrick Mugatolo. Yeah, he was the coach after her father.
Okay.
And he said he wasn't going to go to Serena. He was going to wait until she came to him. But he noticed, as good as she was, there were gaps in her game. And he was able to, coach her to greatness because he was a great coach.
Did you hear that? Did you hear what you said?
What did I say? What I say?
As good as she was.
Yes.
There were still gaps in the game.
There were still gaps in the game.
And that gap came from somebody who was a great coach.
Exactly.
And possibly a great player.
That's right. Yeah.
He or she, but according to the situation,
right.
He could see something I couldn't see.
Right. Yep.
And I still don't see what gap was in her game.
Right.
What was the gap?
That's
right. You're talking about a gap.
Right.
And as leaders, I think sometimes if we don't have that coaching,
right,
we miss the gap.
We miss the gap.
Or we fall into the gap.
Right.
And stay in the gap.
That's
and
right.
We try to develop from the gap. Now you can develop through a gap or develop whatever, but you can't get stuck in the gap.
Right. That's
and
right.
a lot of organizations get stuck in the gap and they're not their best. A lot of leaders get stuck in the gap and they're not their best.
That's right. And they get stuck on what I call the hamster wheel of life, because you're going and going and going and going, and you may want to get to another level, but you're going to be stuck in that one place because you don't have that coach to help push you beyond the hamster wheel. And so you have to have a coach if you are going to be great.
Because greatness has to be what?
Greatness has to be coached.
But there's some gaps.
But there's some gaps. And like you did for me yesterday, which I was telling you on the way up here. I mean, we informally coach each other, but I'm close up on it. I didn't think about it. I told you, I said, Pastor, I didn't even get their information. You told me Dawn, I was at for people who don't know, I was at a
Right.
college fair. I was
Yeah.
at a college fair this weekend, and I met some amazing women. And
shout out to them, and we'll
shout
talk
out
about
to them.
that
Yes,
in a few.
Pastor Hill reached out to me early Monday, and he said, "Dawn, you need to bring them on your podcast." I was like, "What an amazing idea!" But because you're standing back from it, you can see at
The
a
gap.
vantage point. You could see the gap. That's right. That's why they always say you have to stand back. But a coach is already standing back, so
Right.
they can see. They have a broader view than perhaps
Right.
we have because we're too close on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, pause. Greatness has to be coached.
Yes.
We understand that in the situation with Serena Williams, she had a gap, and somebody saw the gap.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep.
Golly. Look at the word agape. You see the word gap in there?
Oh. I never.
And if you do not surround your gap
Ooh.
with the right
Yep.
things,
That's right.
this changes the gap. What is surrounded, what surrounds the gap,
What surrounds the gap?
or
That's
what
right.
covers the gap, what
Yes.
goes before the gap and behind the gap.
That's right.
Changes the whole thing.
Changes the whole trajectory.
Changes the game and the
Yes.
trajectory of life.
That's right.
So greatness has to be coached.
Yes.
You went to an event Saturday.
Right.
Thank God for the event Saturday, the college fair. It was
Yes.
awesome.
Yes.
I say this right for my Mississippi M-I crooked letter I people.
Cricket letter I.
Humpback I grew up saying Alcorn. I grew up saying that. But I learned.
Yes.
I learned.
I learned too.
I
on
learned the
Saturday.
hard way.
They told me that.
What is Alcorn?
It wasn't even hard because they told me right away.
It was
They
not
like, before
Alcorn.
we get your name, ma'am,
Yeah.
we're going to get that right.
We're going to fix that. 'Cause
All
it's
corn.
all corn.
Always.
All corn.
Always all
Shout
corn.
out to all
Shout
corn.
Shout out to all corn. Yeah.
Shout out to Howard University.
Shout out to Howard
Fisk
University. Fisk,
to
yes.
TSU.
Yes.
And
Payne College,
Payne
Jackson
College.
State University,
Yes.
Alabama
A&M.
A&M were there.
Yeah.
Was there. Yes.
So this yeah. And this, I believe that program was there to fill a gap.
Absolutely.
But we got to look at the gaps within the culture, the systems thinking, the
Yes.
communication,
Yes.
the strategic planning, the placement,
Right.
the venues, everything.
Everything.
Everything has if you want it greater, you got to be coached.
You got to be coached. You have to be coached.
But that's something, Don, that we haven't really, even culturally, even in the church culture, we don't think of leadership coaching like we should. But the Bible is nothing but a book of leadership coaching. If you take out all the mysticism, it's about leaders transferring skills to the next leader.
That's right.
From Genesis to Revelation.
Oh,
that's
good.
all it is. It's
yeah.
about coaching.
Right. That's true.
So greatness has to be coached.
Right.
We see the gaps.
Right.
We see something that has us around the gap, so we can turn the gap into agape.
Right. And how do we as leaders
How do we as leaders?
open ourselves up to being coached? Because I will say, to take that situation with Serena and her coach forward, she came to him and said, I need help. To your point, in the church and in other leadership sectors, people who are in leadership see saying, hey, I need help, as a sign of weakness, when in essence, our strength is made perfect
In what?
weakness.
Okay. So
Right.
now she gets scriptural, y'all. She
Right.
just threw the Bible
That's
out there. I mean,
Because
I'm with that. I'm with that too.
Yes.
But you're helping me understand something, that how do we as leaders open up to be coached?
Right. How do we open ourselves up to be coached? Because understanding, yes, greatness has to be coached. We're put in a leadership position. We always want to be better.
Mm-hmm.
But is it a trust that we have to rely on another person to help us fill our gaps? Or is it a lessening of our ego that has to show up so that we can say, you know what, it's okay for me to say, help me.
Okay. So can it not be both?
It could be.
There's a level of trust.
Yeah.
And then there's some ego. I mean, if COVID didn't teach us a lot, COVID really, I told the group, let me back up. I told a group Saturday in a training that I was, given the opportunity to facilitate, that COVID made me renegotiate with my ego. I said that as a pastor.
How do you mean?
I had to look at a dot and preach to a dot and not see Don. I'm like, preach, pastor. That response, that relational component, that equity between preach, pastor, and preaching to a dot.
Yes.
Oh, that did something to me at the beginning, and a lot of preachers to sit down at your desk and preach to the dot on our phone.
Yes.
Come on, let's just be real.
Yeah, no, that
real. Took a different level of emotional intelligence.
Yes.
And wherewithal.
Right.
And guess what? I didn't have no coach.
Right.
In that moment.
Right.
I saw gaps in the ministry.
Right.
Relational gaps. Success gaps. Ethical gaps. Motivational gaps.
Yep.
Informational gaps.
Right.
Because now I had to do everything online.
Yes.
And out of the building. So let's talk about that was a real place.
That was a real place.
That
was a real place.
That's a real place.
Yes.
You have 200 people hollering and screaming and shouting and dancing and joe-jiving and high-fiving.
Right.
To you and a dot.
To you and a dot. Just you and a dot. So how do you,
just you and a dot. And nobody's come and said, no. I mean, we have now, but nobody has said, can we talk to our pastors and look at the psychological effect that had on them as it relates to preaching to a dot?
Right.
Just a dot. Don, it's just a dot.
Yes.
It's just a dot.
It's just a dot. And you're not getting that instant feedback.
What?
Yes.
You get nothing.
You're not getting the pump up. So the
you
pump
get
up
nothing.
has to be, you get nothing.
You get nothing, actually, preaching to the dot.
Right.
I looked at the dot, or I looked at the camera, and I would turn, and that's before we got all this other highly sophisticated technology and look at this camera, and look at this camera. But nobody was in this room. It was a vacuum. So where's the coach?
Where's the coach? Right.
Greatness has to still be coached.
Right, that's true. Yep. But how do you coach and that was an era, and still, you said, we're coming out.
We're coming out.
Where everybody is shaking their heads like, where do we go from here?
Where's our Peter?
Where is our?
Yeah.
We don't have that.
Yeah.
Or we may have.
We have it now.
But it had to be, exactly. And it had to be developed. That's true.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, sitting in an empty room.
Right.
Sitting at your kitchen table.
Right.
Sitting on your couch.
Yes.
Sitting on the back porch.
Yes.
This is not how I do what I've been doing.
Right. As ministers, how have you all, on the other side of this, how have you come out of that? How are you kind of mitigating for now? There's another transition. Yeah, you're going from, now it's, as they say, things are opening up. You are now back in the church, but you're still building. How is that gap? Because I'm sure there still is one. Is that not true?
Of course.
Okay, how? So now what?
Now we only have 5 more minutes left. Do you know that? I was like, oh my God.
Yes.
So that means, guess what, y'all? You got to go to the podcast to get the rest of this conversation, right?
Yes.
When is the Leaders Lounge podcast? I will answer your question, but
the Leaders Lounge podcast happens every Tuesday. In fact, there's a download today. There will be a download today. Yes, but it comes out every Tuesday.
Okay.
So yes.
So we'll hear the rest of this there. Coming out of that, or coming from, through, whatever.
Right.
We are learning to make a lot of pivots and changes. Right. I need to be coached in intentionality. I need to be coached in more strategic planning.
Right.
I need to be coached in communicating with clarity. Because now when I had you for 45 minutes in a sermon, I now only have you for possibly 7 or 8 at the dot.
Right.
Stretching it to 17. I got to really be on.
You got to hit it.
Yeah. So
and
now
because,
it's an opportunity for me to grow as a leader.
Yep. And I'm going to say, as a parishioner, I'm on this side seeing, hey, I can see Pastor Hill, I can see my pastor, Pastor McLean, Bishop McLean, I can see Pastor Faison, I can see all on a Sunday.
Yeah.
So when you say greatness has to be coached, and I can even go outside of the state of Tennessee and watch some folks, right?
Right.
So in thinking about it in that realm, and that as pastors, it's even more important to be great
leaders.
And then as a leader in a church, right, because you are also,
of course,
a leader of the organization.
Right.
Yeah, there are going to be some real opportunities even going forward to ensure that greatness even goes beyond the pulpit.
But it has to.
It has to. It has
There was no pulpit in COVID.
Right.
You had to do things totally different.
That's right, yeah.
And because COVID was brand new to the world, we don't have that picture in front of us to say, we're going to do it like that.
Right,
So we were just developing it as we went along. And as we're still developing it and getting better.
Exactly.
Because now you actually need a team of personalities to do media while you're doing all of this. Somebody has to have point. Somebody has to have transitions, and the giving is up, and like everything, the announcements. So it is a whole nother production going on.
It's a whole nother production. That's right.
But it has to be coached.
And even that part has to be coached, because now, yes, it's not just that the pastor has to deliver this phenomenal sermon, but if it's not coming across in all of these media with the energy and the excellence that is what you want your organization to demonstrate, then you're still going to be missing the mark in today's world. So greatness has to be, and you can't just, I work on the media team, as you know, and so they're just Sunday. There were some changes that happened. Well, if that's not communicated down, greatness even has to be coached to those people who you're supporting, or else your support team is going to fall by the wayside. So, that's
a caveat.
That's a caveat. That is a caveat.
So is this chapter 6 of the book?
Yes.
The lessons I learned from making a German chocolate cake, gaps in the game, a whole other chapter. Communicating to those who follow.
Yes.
Okay. Y'all, we had something else planned. I promise you we did. And we even worked on it. But like she and I know, and I told her coming up here, it's going to change when we see the It's going to change. So today, there's an episode coming out.
Yes.
On the Leaders Lounge.
Today, the Leaders Lounge, we're talking about how to manage time. We're talking about getting chunky and how to chunk your day so that you can be most effective. Yes.
Got you.
Yes, as soon as I get back, I'll be uploading that. So look for that. Yes.
Look for that.
Yes.
Where can we find it?
We can find it wherever you listen to your podcast. So Spotify, Apple, wherever you get it.
Okay.
We've got it.
The Leaders Lounge.
The Leaders Lounge.
Then the Yolanda and Cornelia Show, you can find it here, some content here. We're grateful. You have to come get the book, your book. Talk to us. Tell us in 10 seconds, 15 seconds.
Unpacking Agape, worldclasstraining.net/Agape, AGAPE.
Look, folks, we are out of time, but not out of talk. We are so grateful that you tuned into the Yak, the Yolanda and Cornelia Show, and go to the Leaders Lounge, Apple Podcast, Spotify Podcast for your leadership needs. Go to worldclasstraining.net. Until next week, y'all, peace and blessings.
Bye.
Ron running behind.
Okay.
So
he's running behind?
He may call in. He said if the traffic's too bad, he might have to call.
That gets terrible. Yeah. I got it. Me and Don got plenty to talk about. So, Don, I might do it.
This is Christian business. I think it's just, I don't know.
It probably had a call. Let me do this fade.
Keep on the lookout if he does call in.
Okay.
Just bring him on.
We're going to finish our conversation till he calls in.
Welcome to the Christian Business Connection.
You know.
Our mission is to bring glory to God by inspiring success through His Word. With your host, Ron Jasmine. Christian Business Connection is sponsored by Metropolitan Services.
He would have a whole other show. You know what I'm saying?
Small to medium-sized businesses, churches,
we're going to keep flowing.
organizations,
You still got
go to the next level by